Louganis. Thank you for coming to Plus Talk
My
and having a chat
pleasure.
with us at Plus Live. Let's go straight into it, shall we?
Sure.
1988.
Yeah.
Things at the start of the year are looking pretty good for you as you're preparing for the Olympics, but 6 months before Seoul, your life takes an interesting turn.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Well, 6 months prior to the Olympic Games, I had an ear infection, and so I went to see the doctors about that. But I was a little concerned because it was a big year, Olympics 1988. And so I wanted to make sure I was going to be healthy. And so I asked if he would do an HIV test.
Did you have any reason to think that it may turn up positive?
I knew that there might be a possibility because my partner at that time, he was having difficulty breathing. And he was living in California. I was training, excuse me, in Florida.
So a long distance relationship.
So it was, yeah, kind of. So I knew he was getting sick, and he was concerned he couldn't breathe, and so he went to the hospital. As it turned out, he had pneumocystis pneumonia. But I went in at the same time he was like going to the hospital before he got his diagnosis, and so I really didn't know. But I kind of had suspicions that it possibly might. So I wanted an HIV test just to make sure that I was going to be healthy. And at that time, I knew if the way that I felt was if I tested positive for HIV, then I was going to pack my bags, go home, lock myself in my house, and wait to die.
You were going to wait to die, so you would given up on the Olympic dream right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I had in my mind. That's kind of the thing that I played in my mind.
It's funny that you talk about going into it, sort of having it in the back of your head that this could possibly be a positive diagnosis. I had a similar sort of thing when I went in to get tested. I was in a long distance relationship with somebody, and as much as you tell yourself, I'm going to be fine, it's okay, there was something in the back of my head, or that gut feeling, that made me go, oh, this could be the time the test turns out positive. So with that in the back of your mind, that you think this could happen, and then you get the positive test.
Yeah. Well, also I want to add too is, I mean, a lot of people like to point to this person as having infected me.
Oh, he's the one that gave it to you.
But
How can you tell?
But my suspicions are that we were both positive going into the relationship.
Interesting. Okay.
And so I don't think it was him at all, even though he wasn't a very nice person. But I think we were both positive before.
So you get that result, but you're well on your way to Seoul at this point. You're already an Olympic winner.
Yeah.
So what is it?
World champion.
World champion. All of that. So
yeah, all of that.
How do you turn that around then and stay focused to go on to Seoul?
Well, what happened was when my doctor, who was also my cousin in Florida, he came by where I was living, and he shared with me that my test results came back positive. And so I expressed to him and said, well, I should probably just pack up and go home, because I didn't want my coach to waste his time. I didn't want to waste anybody's time. And at that time, we thought of HIV/AIDS as a death sentence.
And it was.
It was. Yeah. So, but what my cousin stressed to me is that he would look after the medical side, and then have my coach would make sure that I was physically ready, ready to perform in diving. And he said that would probably be the healthiest thing for me. And so it was easy for me, because it was much easier to focus on diving, because I had for so many years.
Right.
And it was something positive. So it was easy for me to kind of go along that route and continue to train and prepare.
Right.
And that's basically what we did.
So when you're standing there at the Olympics and you're on those and you were there and pre-accident and incident, which we'll talk about in a second, is HIV in your mind at any time during those games, or did you sort of push it so out of the way because you had to be hyper-focused on what you wanted, which was those gold medals?
Well, I was so focused on my diving, and it's funny because like everybody thinks that okay, you're in it to win it, you know, and that was never my goal. My goal was always a performance. I wanted my performance to speak for itself. It wasn't. I knew that if I did perform, then chances are I probably would be gold. Yeah, it was so much easier to focus on the diving.
Yeah, someone who reached out to me recently who was very recently diagnosed, and I checked in with them last week and I said, how are you doing? He said, I'm just focusing on other things right now. And I sort of get that, because that's, I think for a lot of us who are diagnosed HIV, I've said this before, we kind of go into, okay, what do I do now mode?
Yeah.
And channel focus so that you don't fall apart. For those of us who were not alive in 1988, something pretty spectacular happened. Can you just briefly relive that moment and what went through your mind? I know you've spoken about it a lot before, but.
Well, hitting my head?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was funny, not funny, but as soon as that happened, I told my coach, I said, that's all anybody's going to remember.
Yeah.
The guy who
you were more embarrassed, weren't you?
I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
I took off the board. I knew I was going to be close. And usually what happens is you hit your hands or your arm or something. And so I was trying to get that out of the way, thinking that, okay, I'm fine. And then I hear this big hollow thud.
You didn't feel it?
No, I heard it. And then I go, as soon as I heard this big hollow thud, I was thinking, what was that? And I was like,
head,
holy
Greg.
shit, it's my head. And I go crashing into the water, and it's like, oh my God, in front of the entire world. And so I was embarrassed. I was thinking, okay, how do I get out of the pool without anybody seeing me? With cameras all over and people in the stands, and it was crazy. And then I just made my way up, and I didn't know how bad it was, but I didn't want anybody touching me, so I held my head.
Right, and that was because of your fear.
Yeah, because then it brought the whole HIV to the surface. As far as being in the forefront of my mind. Concerned about everybody else and all that. And so I started walking towards my coach, and then I was met by the team physician, and then also another orthopedic surgeon who was there, Dr. Ben Rubin.
Sorry to interrupt. At this point, how many of these people know that you're HIV positive? Right.
Ron O'Brien, my coach.
Ron O'Brien, your coach.
Yeah, he was the only one who knew.
Yeah.
And, we didn't have, this was 1988, they didn't have latex gloves, poolside. I don't think they anticipated anything like that. So,
well, if they'd known you were HIV positive, you wouldn't have been allowed in South Korea, let alone to compete, right?
Exactly.
So why would they think that was going to be an issue?
Yeah.
But you decided, because Ron gave you an option, didn't he?
Yeah, he came to me after I got my head sewn up. He said, well, you've got an incredible career to look back on. You have all these records. You don't have to get back out there. And I'll support you 100%. I'm behind you. So you don't have to get back on that diving board. And it was kind of a knee-jerk reaction. I was like, well, we worked too long and hard to get here, and I don't want to give up without a fight. And really in that moment, what came to mind is a young boy, Ryan White, who contracted HIV through his clotting factor. He was a hemophiliac, and he was a fighter.
Yeah.
And he became a friend of mine. He was a good buddy of mine, and so I knew that he was a fighter, and so I drew on that strength of having him in my life, and that's what really got me through.
Yeah, and then you did something really nice with one of those gold medals.
Yeah, I gave that medal to Jeannie.
Yeah, it's Ryan White's mom.
Ryan White's mom. Yeah.
So victory there, but then life after the Olympics. You kept your HIV status a secret until 1995, so
Yeah.
quite some time. What propelled you or encouraged you to speak out about it, and why 1995?
Well, it was an interesting process because, like, when I retired from diving in '88, then I was in an abusive relationship. That relationship was very abusive, and
Isn't
so,
it funny? Again, I'm interrupting you. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Isn't it funny? To the outside world, you've kind of got it all. You're a 4-time gold Olympic. No, but this is the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
That we all have these battles and struggles.
Yeah.
And internally, because I know you suffered with depression too
Yeah.
for a while. So anyway, I didn't mean to. But on the outside, everything is coming up roses and we look fantastic. But we all have things we're going through all the time.
Right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
you were in this relationship.
Yeah, so I was in this relationship, and I got home and found that everything that I worked so hard for was either in his name or it was held jointly, so I didn't really own anything
Right. Oops.
myself. So I had $2,000 to my name, I think, maybe, and that was it. And so I did some investigating when he was gone because I wasn't allowed in the office because I'd screw everything up. It was horrible. But when he was out, I'd go digging around in the files. I found the keys to the file cabinet. And so then I did some research, and that's how I found out what my financial position was, which was rather precarious. And so I shared that with an attorney friend of mine, and so she kind of dug in and got things kind of squared away so that I could extricate myself from that relationship.
Right. So you're like 28 at that point, right? You've won these medals. Everything should be going great, but you're also dealing with an HIV diagnosis and an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
So 1995 comes along and you decide it's time to tell my story?
What happened, because it was, it kind of evolved, because I was doing Jeffrey in New York.
Oh, the play.
The play,
Right.
Jeffrey, and I played Darius,
Okay.
chorus boy with an 8th grade education, and he lives in a penthouse, doesn't pay rent. Dumb, huh? So through that character, I was able to live out my fantasies as well as my fears.
Right.
Because he was out and proud, and he gave pride marches and all that, but he also dies in the play. But I felt that he delivers the most poignant message to the lead character, Jeffrey, I felt. And that's after he passes, his ghost comes back, his spirit comes back, and tells Jeffrey to hate AIDS, not life. And so I was with that show for 6 months, and probably halfway through my run in that show, I went to a friend of mine and said, I want to write a book. Because I wanted to share my story while I was still here, while I was still healthy, while I was still very active and very vibrant, and on my own terms.
Right, yeah.
And so he introduced me to Eric Marcus, who is my co-author. And first question he asked when we were trying to put the proposal together, he said, okay, what was going on through your mind when you hit your head on the board? I said, okay, Eric, turn off the recorder. This is what it was, that I was concerned about my HIV status.
Right.
And what my responsibility was
Yeah.
at that time, because there was still so much fear.
Well, there still is so much fear. We're going into 2020,
I know,
and there is
I
still
did-
so much fear.
It's crazy.
Well, it's stupid is what it is,
Yeah.
if I'm going to be honest about it.
Yeah.
You're 59 now. You're almost, you're a very handsome elder statesman. You have a birthday coming up.
I do. 60.
60, come on. Did you ever think you'd make it to 60?
No. Even when I was younger, when I was like 12, I never thought I'd see 30.
So life begins at 30, as I believe.
Yeah.
This conversation is amazing, and there's so much more to it, and there will be more of it next week.